This is the macro teaching video part 4. This video explains what a macro function is, and specifically introduces how to use a wait function, and how to edit the end of the macro, and state backup of the main program. The final one will explain the whole structure of the macro. Macro functions are a set of functions that controllers provide to macro. Some functions are called directly. Others require input parameters after the function before it can be used. The wait function is used to block pre-reading. Pre-reading is the standard function of the controller. The purpose is that the system will read several lines of the program in advance. The system will plan command first so that the machining could be smoother. Moreover, macro can be divided into two parts: GM code and variable operations. The contents of variable operations, such as variable assignments, are done at the time of pre-reading. At this moment, it may lead to a numerical error of the variable, so we need to use wait function to block it. Wait function is usually added between the variable operation and the G code, but it depends on the situation. In fact, the wait function is called directly. Just input a wait followed by brackets, and also have a semicolon at the end. Wait will block the pre-reading. The user must understand that if it is added too much or written in an inappropriate place, it will cause the machine to move unsmooth. An expanded G code is a subprogram, so when the main program executes a subprogram, it jumps out of the main program and calls a subprogram to execute. After the subprogram are finished, it has to back to the main program by adding a command on the last line. The general return command is M99. Write it on the last line of a subprogram. The state of the controller may change due to main and subprogram switching, such as imperial and metric units, absolute and incremental mode, etc. If the user doesn't notice, that may occur a serious machine action error, resulting in an accident. Consequently, the contents of the subprogram need to include: backup the state of the main program at the beginning, restore the state of the main program at the end. In addition, the controller states are recorded in the system variable after number 1000. How many items of state need to backup are depending on the user. In general, backup number 1000 and 1004, two states. For example, if the main program is currently in G90 absolute mode, then 1004 will equal to 90. Backup the state of the main program at the beginning. It means at the top of macro. Any vacant coordinate variables can be used to store state content, as shown in the blue box. Restore the state of the main program at the end. It means before the M99 command. Assign G code directly, as shown in the green box. Summarize what has been done between Part 1 and Part 4. Part 1, we declare the file to macro format. Part 2, we assign variables to calculate rectangular coordinates and use G01 to machine path. Part 3, we used if syntax and alarm to complete protection and restriction. In this part, we used the wait function to block pre-reading. Use M99 to return, and learn how to backup and restore state. But the order of teaching video is not the order of content in the macro. In fact, the first step is declaring format, the last step is back to the main program. The second step is the backup state, the second and last step is the restore state. The protection and restriction is prior to the calculate coordinates, and wait function is between the calculate coordinates and the path programming. Therefore, the third step is protection and restriction, the fourth step is calculate coordinates. Finally, the fifth and sixth step, respectively, are wait function and path programming. Here we reorder the structure of the macro. At first, combine the calculate coordinates and the path programming into the action. In these 7 steps, declaring format and back to the main program is a necessary and fixed place. Wait functions are used to do on a case-by-case. Finally, the structure of the macro is divided into 4 parts. backup state, protection and restriction, action and restore state. Whatever the user's requirements, generally use a similar process to design a macro. Here's the complete example of the expanded G-code. After watching the 4 parts teaching videos, did you make the same content in the macro? Next video will introduce how to test the expanded G-code in the simulator.